All right, exciting times. We are live with Paul Vera today. We are so excited to have him on the webinar. It is actually 8 a.m. by Paul right now. He is joining us from the US. So thank you, Paul, so much for coming on. Paul is an SEO consultant and the host of the SEO video show. So if you guys love checking out all the SEO podcasts, definitely check out Paul as well because he has some amazing content over there. Paul is an award-winning seasoned SEO and global growth marketer with $500 million plus in influenced revenue yearly, as well as 15 plus years of SEO and digital marketing experience. And yeah, he's just been doing the thing. So we're very excited to have you on today, Paul. Thank you so much for coming on. How are you keeping?
Sure. Yeah. Hey, thank you so much for the introduction. That was an awesome introduction. Thank you so much. But yeah, I'm so happy to be here. This is great. I would love to talk about how my career progress and my SEO journey and share it with you guys, whether it's like within in-house and now becoming an SEO consultant.
Exciting. Can you tell us a little bit about your SEO journey and your digital marketing journey from when you got into it till possibly a little quick highlight journey of where you are now?
Oh yeah, I mean, in college, I was a young entrepreneur, right? So this is one of the things where in college I was doing like these. I was a nightclub promoter. I would throw these parties and stuff like that. And this is like early 2000s when and it just came out. And I created a website, and I found that a lot of my traffic was coming from people searching like San Francisco nightlife, San Francisco parties, San Francisco guest list. So I was like, okay. So and they're finding this through this. I figured out like, okay, if I can optimize for these certain pages, I found out what it was called. It was called SEO at the time, and then I was able to kind of really rank for those and have like the biggest guest list ever and have the fattest parties ever. So it was one of those things that was awesome. And then after that, I ventured off into having a clothing line. And back in 2006, I was ranking #1 for streetwear. And that was able to bring a lot of business at the time. It was called Filthy Dripped. I mean, you could look at it. I mean, I had a brick and mortar store at the time as well, but our brand really expanded through our online presence.
Okay, awesome.
So that's how I got into it. Yeah.
And what inspired the SEO podcast that you are doing as well?
Oh, okay. The SEO podcast that I'm doing right now started about 3.5 years ago when we were all stuck at home. Again, this is something that I've always wanted to have a YouTube channel, but at the same time, I just didn't know when to start. I was always going in. I had the time. I had to go into 9 to 5. But when you had more time on your hands working from home, you think about things that you want to do, right? So this is since I couldn't network with other people, I was like, okay, let me go ahead and start a show. I was thinking about a podcast, but podcast is more of just recordings. But with the show, there's like segments, there's visuals, there's sound effects. So I decided to go that route and decided to do a live stream to talk more, to learn more, and really get connected with the community.
Perfect. And Paul, I know we're probably jumping ahead a wee bit here, but I think it's still a good question in terms of now that you've sort of moved into sort of freelance or contract or whatever you want to call it. How do you think having your own show and having that sort of online presence has sort of helped you moving into that?
Yeah, that's a great question because I feel that the personal brand development is something that would help you become an SEO consultant as well. Because when I didn't have the show, like I would post things here and there, I would grow my network through LinkedIn, but when you have developed your own personal brand, developing whether it's a show, becoming a regular writer or your contributor at other properties, and just getting your name out there will really help you build your personal brand and how much you can charge. So it's one of those things where it's like, okay, so this guy knows what he's talking about. You become that authority, right? So this is something where more people will be able to trust you. You have that authority again. This kind of goes to the whole EAT framework, where even though not applied to SEO, but just to yourself, right? I mean, you become the expert, you become that authority, you become trustworthy, especially with video. I feel like video is like a real great connection to companies outside and people.
Definitely. And in terms of when it comes to sort of client pitches, do you think that having that confidence and being able to like share so much information across the screen has helped come to like landing other clients when you become freelance?
Yeah, well, that's one of the things that, again, it comes to authority. When you know what you're talking about, when you interview, especially when I interview other authorities or other specialists within the SEO industry, I'm actually like learning myself. So I'm actually expanding my own knowledge on that topic as well. Because some people are like, hey man, you interviewed over hundreds of people. You have all these hundreds of SEOs like on your Rolodex that I can actually ask and reach out to for any questions that I have. Like say if I have a technical issue, I know who to hit up. If I have maybe like a knowledge panel issue, I know who to hit up. Right. So these are having these connections is a great way to show more value within myself. Like, hey, I tell these potential clients, like I have, I can, if we have an SEO problem, we can solve it. I can connect it to like over hundreds of SEOs.
Brilliant. And I know we always recommend exactly what you said about growing your personal brand, and especially for sort of junior SEOs, how crucial it can be in landing that. It might come down to the difference between you getting the role and another candidate getting the role. What sort of tips or how sort of intense did you start your personal branding? Is there any sort of advice on like pushing out posts maybe 3-4 times a week, or is it more than that? Or what way did you sort of structure it?
I say post as much as you can at that time, right? Before, because I mean, like, again, if I was building I learned about personal brand when I was back in the nightclub industry, right? This is understanding like making yourself branding yourself, like whether it's like having having a logo that you put everywhere, having like I wear this like every show I go to, so you'll see me in the blue like a Superman colors. So it's like I'm really branding myself with consistency. So being able to like having the same photo within all your profiles, making sure you have the same copy on all your profiles, making it all consistent is something that is the beginning of a personal brand, because you're establishing what you're about and you're establishing your look, you're establishing your authenticity, like of how I am. Like, I mean, I may wear different colors, but again, you're gonna see this logo wherever I go. Whether it's like at a conference, I'm going there wearing this shirt. I'll wear my shirt twice if I have to. So if it's not dirty, I'm wearing it the next day. So that's one of the things that you want to do. Like make sure develop the brand for yourself, being able to kind of share your personality through like whether it's a podcast, through writing, through a show. I feel like when people see the real you, and then you kind of put an overlay of it of like consistency, you can really kind of be more familiar with it, become a familiar face with a lot of people.
Definitely.
Awesome. I wanted to also, in addition to sort of learning and networking and building that community with your podcast, you are actually one of the first guests that we've brought on that has their own podcast show. And I wanted to find out from you, how do you view the importance of video as content within SEO at the moment, and also just combating the effects of AI and things like that? What's your viewpoint on video and how it's adapting and evolving as a important form of content at the moment?
Oh, I've been pushing video. If you're familiar with the SEO in 2023, or SEO in 2023, SEO in 2024 books, this by Majestic and David Bain. I've been only talking about video. Video is something I feel like right now, video takes up more pixels on Google on the first page, right? And Google's been showing more videos more often nowadays, and if you take a look at Google's case studies within Google Search Central, it's all about video. And I don't think people notice that. So they're showcasing video, about video schema and all this stuff. So the purpose of, I feel like having video is a great way, because you can also extract the audio, you can extract the transcript and create blogs about it. I feel video is the top tier piece of content you can create that can really, really be repurposed in so many other ways. And again, right now with Google showing more videos, you're taking up more pixels on page one of Google. So I feel like even in SEO, video is so important. And again, you're developing relationships through videos. And I feel like right now, each company or even marketing teams should becoming like production houses, right? They're becoming like production video production teams or media houses, because now like you need video kind of to even just compete, because if you're not doing it, your competitor is.
Definitely. And do you think Google are starting to push out more videos because of the emergence of like TikTok and the growth that it's seen, and everybody, a lot more sort of searches appearing on TikTok now? Obviously, Google's still leading the way, but do you think Google's trying to combat that a wee bit?
No, well, the thing is, when it comes to video, again, it's showing more of that experience, the authenticity. So I think that's why Google's doing a lot more, because like when you brought up AI, like you can't, unless we can't have this conversation like with AI unless we have our avatars just talking, but we'll have our lips maybe moving, but not our hands. But I mean, it's possible. But again, I feel like the video is just a way to just be more genuine and having that connection.
Okay, perfect.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And in terms of just moving into just advice towards juniors in general, I've been asking a lot of our SEO guests any advice on side projects or things that they would really emphasize to juniors to help upskill themselves.
Okay.
Do you have any sort of input or advice towards that, whether it be like just side projects or upskilling themselves in general for this year?
Definitely. I feel like if you're in SEO, one of the things that was beneficial to me was joining a public speaking club called Toastmasters. If you guys are familiar with Toastmasters, it's a way to kind of develop your soft skill of public speaking. And when you become a great public speaker, you become a great communicator. When you become a great communicator, you can share the results to your leadership, which will get you more budgets, and then you become more successful SEO. So it really, really starts down to becoming a better communicator, becoming a better speaker, and being not afraid, being able to share both good and bad news. Because sometimes some people will be able to be scared to share that bad news to their manager, leader, but they need to know it. But being able to kind of deliver it in a constructive way. The way you do that is, okay, you deliver the bad news, but what are you going to do to fix it? So don't just say that's just the bad news. So always providing a resolution of what we're going to do is a great way to kind of like communicate between managers and to leadership. But again, it comes down to being not being afraid to speak in public, being able to great presentations. And I also owe maybe Toastmasters to me developing the show, right? Like it kind of brought out my character, my charisma and personality. But for the most part, I was really scared to get on camera. Like you should watch my very, very first episode of the SEO video show. You can see me. I'm tense. I'm probably sweating, and I was probably like stuttering a lot. But yeah, so it does take practice. But again, like with anything you do, it takes practice. And when you're trying to build up yourself, even as an SEO, having your own websites, working on your own projects, testing stuff on your own stuff, and at the same time, when you're in-house SEO, you can take on small clients, and this is where I feel like will lead you. Like don't take enough clients that will take up a lot of time. Like keep it one or two, maybe like something, maybe it could be a friend, it could be a relative, but working on these other side projects other than what you are in-house to do will open up your skills to maybe local SEO and other types of SEO that you can actually provide. So that's one of the things I would always say, have a small clients. And then after a while, I mean, it took me about maybe a few years before I started getting like side clients where it came to a point where like, oh, I think I can do this full time. And if you think about it, when you're working in-house, you have a set salary. And when you have enough clients, that can have that set salary, you can make a lot more by adding a client maybe every month, right? So like you can't make that much more in an in-house. And I feel like in every SEO, in-house SEO career, any SEO that works in-house, there will come a point where it's like, you maxed out, and if you're still hungry, and you want to make more, you're gonna have to make that pivot.
Definitely, it's interesting because we don't see too many people moving from like strictly in-house to freelance straight away. We see maybe people who've done agency side and have used to that sort of fast-paced, more nature, working with different clients, and then moving into it. What advice would you have for people who have moved straight from in-house to it? To sort of, was there any sort of shocks when you first started it that you weren't expecting?
Yeah. So again, this is something where you want to make sure you have enough clients to keep you going. You find that moment, because there came a point where I thought like I had enough clients, but then again, like the contracts expired after a few months, and I was like, oh no, so there were some scary points. So making sure you understand the buffer, understanding when clients your contracts are up from your previous site clients and stuff like that, and keeping great track about that. I mean, that's something that you should definitely be able to. You should do, because you want to keep track of, you want to make sure you have that constant income, right? Because if not, oh man, you're gonna start selling my comic books. Yeah, no, for real. That's a true story. I sold some of my old comic books just to like get by, because like, oh man, I didn't realize this client it was one of a bigger client, kind of contract end. So sold a couple comic books, fine, found another client, was off to a good start again next month after.
I was able to get more comic books after that.
Yeah. really for real.
Yeah, there were a few interesting points that you mentioned just with your previous advice to juniors that I just want to go back and just break apart a little bit. firstly, Toastmasters, have heard a lot about them, so I really wanted to explore them a little bit. But also, I've read recently that, and also just from talking through different webinar guests, that soft skills are just so important nowadays, especially communication skills. You mentioned something about letting a team, juniors, being able to give advice and criticism both together. I had a question lined up. How do you ensure accountability within a team setting, both with wins and mistakes? Do you have any tips to juniors on how they can appropriately, like, sort of like manage or tackle something like that?
Yeah, when it becomes to win, whether it's sharing wins or if you are feel like you're like not hitting your targets, or I feel like you are hitting your targets, there's usually something called like within in-house, like OKRs, establishing OKRs, objectives, key results, by the individual, and showing them how it rolls up to the actual business is a great way to kind of like really keep them accountable, so they know what they need to do, making it clear what they need to do. And being able to, as a manager or in the leader, you have to make sure that they are able to feel open to talk to you when they are not hitting those targets. And at the same time, this is what you do when you have regular check-ins. This is where you, as a SEO manager or anything like that, this is when you kind of check in on the projects. There's some tools that I would use, like even like Workfront or Asana, right? Those things you can kind of track. Those are great tools to kind of track tasks and see how things are doing. But when tasks are not getting finished on time, that's what you as a leader should go into and talk to your junior SEO, or your whoever is your teammate, whether it's a dev person. That's the great time to kind of come in as a leader to help them out, because I feel like the best thing that can happen for a junior SEO is a mentor. And having a manager that a mentor for them is probably one of the best things that, for me, as at least, like having a manager and bosses that are able to take the time out of their schedule to help me with my weaknesses, so like, be able to like excel at certain things. It comes down to, having a great manager as well.
Definitely. And on that, I know you've sort of touched on a few points there, but in terms of your leadership style, Paul, was that based off maybe somebody that was a good leader to you, maybe in the start of your career, or what sort of structure do you go for?
For me, it was more about reading books. I read a lot. I mean, of course, obviously, it was like I had some great leaders and I had some bad ones. So I do pick. I've kind of picked up from what not to do and what to do, and you can just kind of see it just by experience it. Because I mean, there's some shock value with other leaders that just go ham. They go crazy and they'll throw things. I'm like, oh my God, that's something I'll never do. But yeah, I feel like a great leader should have that open mindset, that growth mindset. I feel like I've overcome like the imposter syndrome at a very, very young age by reading books. Reading books like How to Win Friends and Influence People is a great one, and Think and Grow Rich. Books like that, like those type of books, motivational books and personal growth books, really can open up your mind. And if you really like kind of believe in those type of methodology and ideas, it sets you up great for the long run, becoming a great leader, manager yourself.
Perfect. And just to build off that, I know you said about reading books, because I was actually interested whenever you first started talking about how you got into SEO. How did you learn the sort of the skill set? Because obviously you were just doing it for the nightclub reason. Was there? I think there was no online courses or anything like that. Was it just books as well?
Yeah. Guess what the book was called? SEO book. If you go to SEObook.com, it's an old school site. It's by Aaron Wall. I learned it. He used to put out this PDF, and every time I would go to a place, I don't think they're around anymore, but there's a place called Kinko's where I would go get it printed and get like the actual PDF printed, and so I can talk about it. Then like I would get so upset because they updated maybe 2 weeks later. I was like, I just spent so much money printing this book out, and you added more stuff. And so like I reprinted it and so it's something that I love having in front of me, but just having that tangible, because back in 2002, 2003, it's like reading on a computer screen like that much wasn't a thing yet. So it's like having it tangible and being able to like take notes was something that I would do. But yeah, SEO book was the book that I actually learned in SEO, and you go SEObook.com. Yep.
Perfect.
Awesome.
And just one more on that. And how did that lead into your first job? Did you showcase your website and be like, this is what I can do, or?
Okay, so this is kind of like a personal story where it's like actually I was dating someone that knew what I was doing on the side. She like she had clients herself, and she goes, your boyfriend does what? He does that SEO like SEO stuff. You can make a lot more. You can make a lot of good money doing that for businesses like or corporations, right? So, I was like, whatever. And then but I decided to go to LinkedIn, start applying to some jobs, and then I got some interviews, and then I got my first enterprise SEO um, gig was at SAP, a company called SAP. They were actually they were called Success Factors. They got acquired by SAP, but that was the first company I got into. Then that was back in 2010, I believe. 2010, yeah, 2010, and ever since then, I've just been in house until just about 2 years ago. I started SEO consulting.
Perfect.
Wow.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Just bringing it back to SEO book.
Yeah.
How have you seen the industry evolve from the past 15 years, and where do you see it going within the next 1 or 2 years? Just a short-sighted view.
I mean, it's like for like any SEO would say, like it was so much easier back in the days. It was like this SEO book was all about meta titles, meta descriptions, meta keywords, and really getting all the backlinks. So I mean, at the same time, it's still the same to this day, but it is a lot harder, a lot more competition. There's now that we have the addition of AI, being able to kind of adapt to what's going on there, but at the same time, it's like you have to be really smart about it because like with the recent update, you have Google here trying to like tracking down these certain type of websites. So it's like, hey, should you adapt that quick? You should really take a step back and see what's working, see what was not hit. Like for any type of like update, like even a Google algorithm update, you don't change your site or right away once the update rolls out, right? You have to, you kind of wait and take a step back and kind of analyze. So right now, I feel that's happening with the AI. I think people are kind of taking a step back and analyzing what's going on, see how much tolerance Google can handle for AI content.
Awesome.
And on the sort of the point of updates, how do you handle clients now that you're freelance if they hear about a new update, for example, like the helpful content update, and they're starting to throw out ideas and stuff like that or might be completely off?
Mhm.
How do you sort of handle that and sort of let them know again that you're the expert, you've got it all under control?
Well, the key thing is letting them know before they find out, because if they find out on their own, then that will come back. But if you say, "Hey, there's got a Google update rolling out. This is what's going to happen. This happens every month or so. Whatever update it is, you really communicating that with your client and letting them know. Like I also mentions like, "Hey, we may see some ranking shifts like within the next month or so, but like don't panic, there's an update going on." And then for the most part they don't, and then we kind of as long as you're being honest with your SEO work for a client, they shouldn't have any problems.
Perfect.
Awesome.
And then on that, you've moved obviously in-house over 15 years. You've had sort of multiple jobs. When you move into like a new management position, is there any advice you can give people who are going through that at the minute to sort of what to incorporate within, say, the first sort of 90 days of moving into a new management role?
Yeah, of course. Especially in the first 90 days, you really want to foster those relationships between your teams, because let's say you have to understand that like who you're going to be working with. I always like putting up the example of like when you go into a new company and you're going to be magic, you need to be friends with your dev team, right? Because you're going to have technical SEO. So I always like to joke around. It's like, hey, every Friday, Fridays, I'd get beers and, I'll bring out beers, whatever, give it to them, kind of really developing that relationship with the dev team is very, very important. And not just necessarily the dev team, but, other teams. But that's just one example I like using because it's true. Like sometimes the dev team can be a roadblock when it can easily be, not a problem if you kind of have that relationship with them.
Yeah, and in terms of the structure of your teams in previous roles, we went to a few events recently, and a lot of the talks have all been about how silo teams should really not be a thing anymore, and it should be very like cohesive, all the departments working with each other and stuff like that.
Yep.
How important is that for you, and have you seen like a sort of a change from being more siloed to more integrated?
Yeah, so that's a good, that's a great comment there, right there, because this is something that I was able to achieve by creating something called Tiger Teams, and this is a great way to kind of communicate information through other teams. Because when you have a Tiger Team, this is when you bring in someone from like the demand gen team, someone from the dev team, and someone from maybe like the content marketing team, and you kind of create this dynamic team and have weekly meetings within these dynamic teams. So it's not siloed. So you have people that are not in your team but in other teams, but you're communicating it, like what's being done, how their team is helping out. Again, it's all about recognition, and the more recognition you show your other teammates of how they're doing and how they're helping the company, they're going to share it off to their managers, and then their managers are going to go, okay, let's do more with SEO. So it's a great way to kind of really kind of bring different teams together by creating like these pods or Tiger Teams, people call them. So that's kind of a way to like not necessarily be siloed, but it's up to that SEO leader, SEO manager to create those meetings, though.
Yeah, definitely.
I love that. That's very interesting. As an SEO consultant, I imagine that you are communication is a very important part of the role as well. Do you have any tips to SEO managers or people that are leveling up in their role that are now moving into a client-facing role, or is having to report to C-suite or things like that?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any tips on how to appropriately or effectively communicate from their team?
Yeah. When you effectively communicate, it's being able to understand what you're talking about, being able to really like know what you're sharing, and like understanding like what questions may arise, and never just give out problems, but also solutions. This is one of the things that you have to always kind of like having like, and also even when you share like positive things, what did we do to do that? Let's do more of that. Let's double down there. How can we fix it again when something bad, and how can you fix it? So being able to have an answer and a reason why it happened, I think being able to share that will really get you far, and like make people understand what you're doing. Because again, SEO can be a black box. Sometimes people don't understand what SEO is, but for you to be able to share action items, whether it's positive or negative, is very, very important.
Definitely. And I think on that, we spoke to Eli Schwartz, and he
yeah.
said very similar. And he said that SEOs, especially when they move up to more senior level, they need to focus more on talking about SEO as a way about revenue and bottom line and profit, rather than technical terms, because C-suite people don't want to hear about how the tech SEO is going. They want to hear about how it's affecting the bottom line.
Yeah.
Is that something you're incorporating at the minute? And do you have any advice for people on how to maybe learn that sort of language compared to real heavy tech language?
Well, I think again, you have to always just kind of like bring back the technical language, really understand, like, again, speak in action, speak in like, what's on the company OKRs, speak on that type of language. And it's funny you mentioned Eli Schwartz, because he was one of the guys that actually helped, like, kind of like pushed me towards the SEO consulting, because I was talking to him, like, when I was trying to like maybe move up and trying to get another SEO role, I found it pretty difficult. And we were talking, it's like there becomes a max point for every SEO, and I think you're at that max point where, like, if you want to like do more, you should look into SEO consulting, which was probably one of the better things and one of the great decisions I've done so far.
Yeah, no, I'd say so. I've experienced that a lot with sort of clients or candidates recently, especially very high level in-house people. Once they get to a certain salary and a certain sort of director role or VP role, there's not much further to go, and if they lose that job, or if they want to move, they're almost pigeonholed because they can't go any higher. And sometimes, the freelance side of things doesn't suit a lot of people, but it's an awkward one.
Yeah, no, that's exactly why I mentioned always have like maybe like a couple side gigs. It could be friends and family, just having it on the side and get going.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Definitely. Just I think for a last question, I know you have to head off very quickly. But do you have any last pieces of advice for anyone that is not an SEO but is looking to get into SEO or considering it, and how to sort of evaluate whether it's the right path for them or not?
Yeah, for those looking to SEO, it's a great space. You can make a lot of money doing SEO. Don't believe SEO is dead. SEO is alive and fun. This is what I'm always talking about. So, and it's a fun. It's a great community, and we're all here willing to help. I mean, I even have a show that I interview people and help people all the time, and even like people that are non SEOs actually watch the show. Like they're just digital marketers, right? So like, and see how fun it is. Look at the personalities that are out there. I mean, don't watch too many different people. Like maybe attend a conference, see who the guests, like the great speakers are, to kind of feel it out, and if it's something you want to get into. But again, I know I've never been on the agency side of like working for someone, but from what I hear from a lot of my guests is that if you really want to kind of test the waters, work for an agency so you can see if it's the right thing for you.
Yeah.
Awesome. And check out the SEO book as well.
And always have the SEO video show. I go live every Friday, 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So that's in about 3 hours.
Amazing. All right, guys. Thank you so much, Paul. That was such a fantastic episode. And we can't wait to check out your next episode as well. And we learned so much. Video will be out on YouTube and Spotify, and newsletter will be out and everything. So we really appreciate all of the advice you have and the input that you have. Have a great Friday and a good weekend, and we'll chat soon.
Cheers, Paul.